the night her husband cast her into the rain for being barren, and Admiral believed her story had ended, until a quiet janitor and his twins rewrote her fate. If stories like these speak to you, stay with us. Subscribe for more tender, powerful tales of second chances and found family. Rain fell in thin, silvery threads across the naval housing block, turning the asphalt into a dark mirror. Admiral Helena Ward stood on the front steps of the home she once kept immaculate, her suitcase resting beside her boots. The porch light buzzed weakly overhead, flickering as though it couldn't decide if she deserved illumination or darkness. Inside, just beyond the doorway, her husband stood with arms crossed. Admiral Marcus Hale looked at her the way one looked at a subordinate who had failed a vital mission. "You can command ships, Helena," he said quietly, almost gently, which made the word sharper. "But you can't give me a family. I need an heir, a future. And you," his eyes hardened, "you can't." The door shut before she could answer. The sound echoed through her ribs like a shell hitting steel. Helena did not cry. Her body had been trained out of such responses decades ago. She only reached for the handle of her suitcase, lifted it with a steadiness that felt more like numbness, and walked into the rain. Salutes rose around her from young sailors passing by. But she didn't return them. She barely registered them. The world felt like it had slipped into a softer, quieter sound, as though someone had lowered the volume on her life. She checked into her government-issued apartment before midnight. Bare walls, a single lamp, furniture that smelled faintly of disinfectant and loneliness. She unpacked her uniforms, hung her coats in perfect spacing, and finally pulled out the item she always had deepest in her luggage, a folded baby blanket. Soft pale blue, bought long ago, back when she believed her life would include lullabies. She smoothed it once with her palm, then placed it in the drawer beside her bed, a ritual of grief disguised as order. Every night she opened that drawer. Every night she closed it. Work became her refuge. Early morning drills, late-night strategic reviews, back-to-back meetings. Anything to avoid the echoing quiet of her apartment. The Navy knew she was reliable. They didn't know she was drowning. It was nearly 2 months later when she first noticed the janitor. He moved down the hallway with steady, measured steps, pushing a cleaning cart filled with mops, disinfectant, and old portable radio that played soft country songs. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with dark hair tied loosely at the nape. A worn wedding ring hung on a chain around his neck. His eyes carried a tiredness that somehow still looked gentle. Evan Cole. Helena knew the name only because it was stitched onto his uniform above the pocket. And then there were the 2 small children trailing behind him. Twins, perhaps 6, carrying backpacks that looked too large for their small frames. They tiptoed behind their father on quiet afternoons, drawing pictures on scrap paper while he emptied trash bins or changed light bulbs. Helena would pass them without slowing, but she always noticed. One evening, she saw Evan kneeling, fixing his daughter's shoe with duct tape while his son slept on his shoulder. The girl held perfectly still, watching her father's hands with complete trust. Something unsteady flickered in Helena's chest. Wanting, envy, grief. She didn't know which. Their first real conversation came unexpectedly. She turned a corner too fast, carrying a heavy binder filled with classified documents. It slipped from her grasp and hit the floor, paper scattering like startled birds. She swore under her breath, quietly, sharply, before she bent down. Evan was already there, kneeling, collecting the papers with care rather than haste. "You don't have to pick it all up alone, ma'am," he said without looking up. Helena froze. Something in her, not the Admiral, but the woman beneath, felt a fragile crack form. She cleared her throat, suddenly aware that she didn't know what to say. Officers were used to respect, salutes, deference, but not this simple human kindness. The twins peered out from behind the hallway corner. The girl, Lily, stepped forward and held up a drawing of a ship under a smiling sun. "It's for you," she said shyly. Helena accepted it with a stiffness that made her feel foolish. "Thank you," she managed. "It's very good." It was the first thing besides her uniforms that she pinned on her wall. The night stretched longer during winter, and Helena found herself working through most of them. She wasn't alone. Evan often stayed for late shifts too, needing the extra hours. Their paths crossed more frequently. Soft nods, small glances. He fixed a flickering light near her office. She brewed coffee and started leaving an extra cup by accident when she walked past the supply closet. They never spoke much, but something was weaving itself between them, quiet, warm, unexpected. Then came the envelope. White, official. It waited on her desk one morning like an accusation. Inside, medical results confirming what Marcus had used to justify throwing her out. Permanent infertility. Irreversible. Her breath left her body in a silent collapse. She tried to stand, tried to breathe, tried to be the admiral everyone knew, but something inside her buckled. She walked into a supply closet, closed the door, and leaned back against it as tears threatened to escape. Her hands shook uncontrollably for the first time since she was a plebe. A soft knock sounded. She didn't answer, but the door opened slightly anyway, slow and careful, and Evan stood there, not intruding, only waiting. Her voice broke. "I am a decorated admiral, and I cannot give anyone a family." The words tasted like metal. Evan stepped forward just enough for his voice to reach her. "Family isn't something you give someone," he said softly. "It's something you build with someone." A sound escaped her, a broken breath, a surrender she never allowed herself. For the first time in years, Helena cried. Not loud, not messy, just quiet tears sliding down a face that had been held still too long. Evan said nothing else. He just stood with her in that dimly lit room, sharing the silence until she could breathe again. After that, things changed in ways both subtle and profound. Lily began leaving small drawings on Helena's desk. Stars, flowers, sometimes a woman in a navy coat holding two tiny hands. Liam asked her to help fix his miniature submarine, and she did it with trembling fingers and an absurd amount of care. The twins trusted her quickly, naturally, purely. It terrified her and healed her at the same time. But everything nearly unraveled the morning Marcus came back. He approached outside the administration building. Perfectly pressed uniform, expression carved from stone. "Helena, we should talk." She stiffened. Old habits, old wounds. Before she could decide whether to walk away, Lily shouted her name from across the courtyard and ran toward her. Helena instinctively stepped forward, catching the girl in her arms just as she tripped. Marcus's face twisted. "You're still trying to play pretend? Borrowing someone else's children doesn't make you a mother." Helena's breath hitched, but Evan was already stepping forward, calm and unshaken. "My children choose who they trust," he said. "They choose who feels like home." Helena felt something shift inside her, like a locked door opening. She stepped closer to Evan without thinking. For the first time in her life, she didn't feel alone. Snow arrived early that year, drifting soft and heavy across the naval base like a hush meant only for weary hearts. The buildings, usually sharp and imposing, looked gentler beneath the white. Light from the outdoor lamps spilled gold across the snow, as though trying to warm the night itself. Helena found herself walking toward the custodial office more and more, a small room tucked behind the supply hallway. Its windows glowed softly against the dark, a pocket of warmth in a world that had always asked her to be still. Inside, Evan sat with the twins curled under blankets. A small heater hummed in the corner, steaming the cold from the air. Lily was coloring. Liam was half asleep with his head against his father's arm. They looked up as Helena entered, and Lily beamed. "You came," she whispered, as if Helena were something wondrous. Helena didn't trust her voice enough to speak. She simply nodded and took a seat on the floor beside them. Lily scooted closer, handing her a coloring pencil without hesitation. Liam leaned ever so slightly toward Helena's shoulder. She didn't move, didn't breathe. She just felt. Evan watched her with quiet eyes, not evaluating her, not waiting for her to speak, just seeing her. And for Helena, who lived in a world where she was only ever seen in terms of rank, the softness of his gaze felt almost unbearable. Hours later, when the base lights flickered under the strain of the snowfall, Evan stood and retrieved extra blankets. "You should stay here until the storm settles," he said. "Roads are iced over." Helena hesitated. Storms didn't scare her. Loneliness did. The twins looked at her with hope, so fragile she felt it in her bones. She stayed. They shared warm soup from a thermos Evan brought. Lily fell asleep curled against Helena's arm. Liam rested his head on her lap. Evan quietly adjusted the heater so the cold wouldn't reach them. As the storm raged outside, the quiet in that little room felt like a harbor she had never known existed. Much later, when the twins slept fully, Evan took a soft breath. "You don't have to stay strong all the time," he said gently. "Not here." Helena stared at him, a strange ache rising in her chest. "I'm not sure I remember how to be anything else." "Then we can figure it out together," he said. It was simple. It was devastating. It was exactly what she needed. The next weeks unfolded like slow sunrise. Helena found herself seeking the twins' laughter in the hallways, learning how Liam liked his snacks cut into tiny squares, how Lily hummed softly when she colored. They began leaving drawings on Helena's door, sometimes taped crookedly, sometimes folded neatly. One afternoon, Helena found a drawing of herself holding hands with the twins under a sky full of stars. In the corner, Lily had written, in large, uneven letters, "Admiral Helena is family." Helena pressed the paper to her chest and breathed through a tremble that felt like something breaking and mending at once. Evan noticed a drawing pinned beside Helena's desk, but said nothing. He didn't need to. Their silences were beginning to say more than words. One evening, close to Christmas, Helena found Evan in the empty hallway, replacing a broken light bulb with his sleeves rolled to his elbows. The twins had fallen asleep earlier, tucked under coats on a bench nearby. She approached quietly, watching the way his hands moved. Steady, careful, practice from a life that hadn't given him ease. "Evan," she said softly. He turned. She wasn't sure what made her nervous, the way his eyes warmed when he saw her, or the way her own heart answered. "I wanted to thank you," she said, "for everything." "You don't owe me anything," he said. "I'm just glad you're here." "Still," she whispered, "people don't choose me. They obey me, fear me, avoid me, but they don't choose me." He stepped closer, slowly, giving her time to move away. She didn't. "Helena," he murmured, voice gentle and certain, "I chose you the moment I saw you carry your loneliness like armor." Her breath stilled. "And the twins," he smiled softly. "They chose you the moment you knelt down to pick up those papers. Kids know heart when they see it." Helena looked away, swallowing hard. "I don't know how to be what they deserve." "You already are." Simple words, spoken like truth. Her eyes closed for a moment, as if steadying herself. When she looked at him again, the storm inside her had quieted. Christmas Eve arrived without fanfare. The base was quiet, many families gone home. Snow blanketed the courtyard, turning the world into a soft haze of white and gold. Evan invited Helena to join them for a small dinner in the custodial lounge. Just the four of them, paper plates, simple food, a tiny battery-operated candle that flickered like a heartbeat. The twins opened small gift from Helena, a wooden puzzle for Liam, a set of watercolor pencils for Lily. Their joy was loud and bright and unrestrained. When the children drifted asleep on a pile of folded blankets, Helena reached into her coat pocket and pulled out something small, a folded baby blanket, the one she had kept for years. She placed it gently into a wooden chest Evan had crafted from leftover scraps, a chest he'd built without knowing the weight it would hold. "I don't want this to be a symbol of what I lost anymore," she whispered. Evan touched the lid of the chest, his fingers brushing hers. "Then let it be a beginning instead. The room felt sacred in that moment. Warm, dim, filled with the soft breaths of sleeping children and the distant hum of snow against the windows. "Evan," she murmured, voice fragile and fierce at once, "I never believed I could be chosen. Not for something like this. Not by someone like you." He stepped closer, slow enough that she could stop him. She didn't. His hand cupped the side of her face, gentle as snowfall. "You were never less. Helena, you were never broken." She felt her heart unclench, like fingers releasing something they held too long. Her forehead rested against his, their breaths mingled, and slowly, quietly, their lips met. Not desperate, not rushed, just a soft promise. A step toward a future rewoven. The twins stirred lightly in their sleep, as if sensing the shift in the world around them. Helena glanced at them, then back at Evan, a small, trembling smile forming. "Some families," she whispered, "aren't born. They're found. And we found you," Evan replied. The heater hummed. Snow drifted past a window. And in that small custodial room, surrounded by sleeping children and the faint glow of a battery candle, Helena Ward felt something she hadn't felt in years. Home. Some hearts aren't healed by blood or lineage, but by kindness that stays. If this story touched you, don't forget to subscribe for more quiet, powerful tales.